So let's continue working with the dough. The dough has rested for a total of about 2 hours, and both the first and second batches have been well chilled in the refrigerator. Now we're going to start shaping the cookies to the size we need using cookie cutters. And look, there's a little nuance here. We're using a silicone mat and the rolling pin. Well, if you're working with a small amount, I recommend using a small one so it's easier to roll out. You'll definitely need a plastic scraper so you can carefully transfer the cookies for baking without deforming them. Let me explain why. Because I really like working with this kind of perforated, silicone reinforced mat. That way, the bottom of the cookies turns out really beautiful. You can also bake on silicone-coated parchment paper. The only thing I don't recommend is using a regular silicone mat. With it, there's a risk that small bubbles will form on the cookies because the steam needs somewhere to escape. In this case, you need to prick the cookies. Of course, later we'll cover them with sugar decorations, but still, it's better not to mess with them too much so they don't lose their shape. So, when rolling out the dough, we also work on a silicone mat. But if you do need to dust the mat a little bit somewhere, or maybe the surface of the cookies themselves, we don't use flour. I recommend using cornstarch. It's honestly a universal life hack. It helps if, for example, the dough is sticking, right? It helps cushion the dough when rolling out almost any kind, but it doesn't weigh it down. This works for both gingerbread and short crust pastry. The only exception is with rich dough. Of course, not there, you use flour, but that's a whole different story. In our case, I recommend using cornstarch. Now we'll make some blanks from different types of dough and take a look at them at the same time. Look, when it comes to baking, I don't recommend baking light and dark types of dough together because they behave a little differently. The temperature is the same, but the lighter dough might need a bit more time. Although, if you are already, let's say, well acquainted with the dough, get used to it and it is comfortable for you to work with it, then in this case you can put both. The only thing is, make sure they're the same size and use one type of dough as your reference, like the golden color of the lighter dough, to know, okay, everything is ready, just as it should be. Alright, let's get started. First, I'll take a little bit of cornstarch. Well, you can literally put a little bit on the rolling pin itself, a little bit on your hands, just like that. Just a tiny amount. Look, we work quickly with the dough. Now, while I'm rolling it out, I'll just go ahead and preheat the oven. The cookies should be 1/2 centimeter thick. That's the most comfortable size to balance the flavor of the decoration and the taste of the cookie itself. 5 millimeters. So that's more than enough. It's a very comfortable thickness. Let me go ahead and roll out all the light dough at once, because within a single set, it looks much better when the base is the same. So, our set will be assembled on a light colored base, such as this one. We're rolling it out to 1/2 centimeter. So, you see, I'm using cornstarch, but the dough won't get dense because of it. Just like that. And let's get to work. Here's the thickness. Now I'll use a cutter. If it's hard for you to eyeball it, use rolling pins with thickness guides. Or, as a last resort, roll it out using skewers as guides. Okay? So you place the skewers underneath if they're the right thickness, the right size. Like that. Okay. Now I'll show you. See, this is the thickness. This is the perfect thickness. I'm already transferring what has come off here. Now I'll put everything over there and definitely show you. I'll show you at the same time. So, most likely, there won't be enough space, right? To cut out all the elements with the cutter. So, as usual, we'll need to gather the leftover dough afterward. Now I'll show you how to do it correctly. So, this is exactly how it turns out. There's this big piece left, and the cutter isn't big enough for it. So, look, under no circumstances should we take this and knead it with our hands, or mash it, or knead it again. No, no, no. Here we have a silicone mat. Or if you're doing this on a baking sheet, just fold it like this. There's no contact with your hands at all. Just simply fold it, even if there are seams here. That's totally fine. Fold the dough like this until you have a convenient piece, and then start rolling it out. So, we're not pressing anything down. If you see these, yes, these kinds of ugly seams appear. Just fold it again. Like this. And roll it out again. So we're not squishing or flattening anything. We don't do any of those kinds of actions, even if there's a seam on the other side. See, right here, it's no big deal. We're only concerned with the front side. During the folding process, everything will come together. See, everything looks fine here. Now we cut out the shapes. Carefully transfer them at this stage, like this. Look, I'm removing the scraps. See, we've transferred it. And now the most important thing is to check the forms again, because when we transferred, so that there were no unnecessary deformations, since we will then need the stamp to match perfectly. Perfect. So that the stamp matches our cookies, matches them exactly, just the way we want. The oven is already ready. Now I'll do it like this to remove the excess. That's it. You can do it this way. If there are especially fragile details, you can do it right on the baking sheet. You roll it out, transfer it, and then make the cutouts right there. Then you remove everything that's extra. Here we have it, and here too. Like this, to get rid of the excess. Let's check here. And let's check the bow. Yeah, everything's good. Everything's perfect. You can safely put it in to bake now. As for the timing, both the light and dark dough formats need 10 minutes. That's the maximum amount of time needed for the light dough. Your goal when baking, I'll show you the finished result, is that it should stay a little pale, with just a slight golden blush. So if you bake it until it gets really brown, that's not how it should be, it'll end up overbaked. The taste of the finished cookie will be seriously ruined in that case. I preheated using convection, and now I'm switching to the top and bottom heat mode. That's it. And I set it for 10 minutes. As for the temperature, here's what I recommend. A range of 200 degrees at most, 180 at the lowest. Mine is set to 190. Within this range, you should adjust according to your own oven because, as I always say, ovens are individual. They have their own personalities, they're finicky, and everyone's is different, so you need to know how to get along with yours. If you know that your oven runs a bit cooler than it should, and you always have to set it a little higher, then just go ahead and set it to 200 right away. But if everything is fine, I recommend starting at 180. For mine, 190 is just right, and that gives a really beautiful, perfect color. I like it that way. That's for the light dough. For the chocolate dough, I'll set it to 180. So, let's put it this way. In my oven, that's the necessary setting, and in 10 minutes both types of dough bake evenly. Because the light dough is a bit more delicate, when you start working with it and rolling it out, you'll see what I mean. Now we're going to roll out the chocolate dough, and you'll even be able to see the difference just by looking at it. As for the leftover light dough, I don't recommend freezing it. Why not? Because after thawing, if you can work with this dough at all, it's only good for making cookies for yourself, not for selling. It becomes tougher, maybe even a little rubbery. Freezing, there's no way around it, changes the physical properties of the flour. So, there's just no escaping that. That's why we don't make dough in advance. You can freeze-baked, finished dough. Finished cookies store perfectly fine in the freezer. Just make sure to keep them sealed and stored properly with other foods. But dough, no. We prepare the dough raw. It can stay in the fridge for up to 6 hours, but no longer. And during that time, you really need to work with it and bake it. But once it's baked, you can freeze it and use it as a prep item. There won't be any issues with the dough at that stage. So I'm putting away the leftovers. Now we're going to work with the chocolate one. Look, especially when you start rolling out the dough, if your room is really warm, or if you're worried that the oven is heating up the space a lot while it's preheating or baking, it's better to first roll out the dough and make all your pieces ready for baking. Then put them in the fridge, just covering them with plastic wrap. That's it. Then you can turn on the oven, preheat it, and start baking. So you see, you can even tell visually, it even cracks a little. The other dough didn't crack like this. For chocolate dough, this is absolutely normal. Don't worry. If it sticks like this, just use cornstarch again. The most important thing at this stage is that, yes, when you roll it out, the edges of the dough might spread a little, right? That is, they become a bit crumbly. That's allowed. It's absolutely normal. The main thing is that it doesn't completely crumble or fall apart. If that happens, that's not good. It shouldn't be like that. Let's keep rolling it out. So, yeah, just dust it a little bit again at this point. If it's really falling apart, guys, that's bad. That already means there were some unnecessary, unclear, or incorrect things with the flour, cocoa powder, or the amount of egg yolk. So in this regard, chocolate dough is a bit fussier than the light one, especially when it comes to this crumbling issue. That's it. And now you can start cutting out shapes. Exactly the same way, right? Here's the thickness. It's very convenient, about 1/2 centimeter. It's just tasty like this, and using cookie cutters is really easy. Well, I guess they probably won't all fit again. Or maybe they will. Let's see now. Oh. Gorgeous. They fit. All right, let's take this one. I made a little mark. Now we'll take these out. About rolling it out, it's the same. We don't press anything with our hands. The scraps and leftovers remain. We just press them together like this, like little sheets, but without overdoing it. Press them together. The tulip is the most finicky one. Press them and that's it. Don't knead or mess with it anymore. And roll it out again. While my oven is busy, I'll finish up with these cutouts. We have 3.5 minutes left, and then we'll see how the baking turns out. Even if you ended up with these kind of messy edges here, don't worry about them for now. Don't fuss with them yet, because you'll be transferring everything to the baking sheet anyway. And you'll definitely need to check the shapes, compare them, and even them out. So that's when you'll get rid of all those extra bits. Alright, that's it. And now, if you want, where I had the tulip cutter, now you can use the tulip to cut out the remaining dough. Just like that. That's it. Now you don't need the scraps anymore. They were crushed. And put them in the fridge too. So, my dears, there are 30 seconds left until the baking is done. You can already, basically, cookies aren't afraid if you peek in on them. You can carefully take a look now. Yes. That's huge. So even though there were 30 seconds left, let me show you what I mean when I talk about the dough being ready. Look, my dears, you see, there's a slight golden color around the edges, just a little bit, but the rest stays light. The cookies themselves stay light in color. That's exactly how it should be. If it gets too browned, it will be overbaked, and then it'll be hard to work with. And as for the taste, well, let's just say it'll still taste good, but it'll be tougher. It should be firm in texture, easy to handle, but at the same time, it should melt instantly and fall apart in your mouth when you bite into it. Let's transfer it. I have only one baking sheet, but several molds for baking. Look, at this stage, the cookies are very, very delicate. So the best option is to just let them rest on whatever you baked them on. Or at least wait a little bit until they cool down, and then you can transfer them. Ideally, you want to place them on a rack so that the heat from below doesn't make them soggy, or rather, so that moisture from condensation doesn't form underneath. That's not good. I had it lying around for a bit. I'm going to transfer them back onto the baking sheet we used. I'll bake the chocolate ones on a different sheet. Look, do you see? This is the right color you want to get. It's more golden, especially on the bottom. Perfect. And the underside, the shirt, looks beautiful too. If you want the top side to have the same shirt pattern, the one you'll be putting the fondant on, then when you cut out the cookies, just remember that after cutting, you'll need to flip them over before baking. That way, they'll bake with the underside facing up, not the top. Here, this side is the front, and that one is the back. But if you cut them out and then flip them over like this, the pattern will end up on the side that will actually be the front when you decorate them later. Just like that. Now let them cool completely. And now we'll continue with the chocolate version. I'm going to use another baking sheet, one that's a bit more well used. Look, while you're transferring them, you should go ahead and preheat the oven. Why? Because while we were taking things out, the temperature dropped, and you want to put them in only when the oven is back up to its maximum heat. Now, carefully transfer them over. But remember, here we'll need to even out the shape, trim off any excess, so that everything is neat again. So just set them down, roll them a bit, and remove any extra. Just like that. And then we bring it back, just like this. That's it. Well, the tulip is the most finicky one. We take the bow. Well, the only problem with the bow is if you don't aim really well, you might run into issues. So, the most important thing here is not to mix up the flowers that look very similar. Like this. And the biggest, most beautiful flower in the entire garden, truly remarkable. Now, don't throw away all these little scraps. They're all pieces of proper dough. We'll add them back to the main piece of dough. Now we put all of this into the molds. Here, look, this is what I meant. So now, for example, the bow, right, let's go with that. We flip it over like this and replace it with the back side up. So when it bakes, the front side will have a textured pattern. How's the oven doing? All right, everything's preheated here, so now we put them in. The white cookies were in for 10 minutes, and there were about 30 seconds of just opening and closing the oven. These ones were definitely baking for a full 10 minutes, using the entire 10-minute cycle. Look. When it comes to oven placement, you can bake them in the middle of the oven, or, like I do, I put them one rack above the middle, closer to the heating element, but not all the way at the bottom. Ideally, especially if your oven is finicky, you should use the middle rack position. I find it much more convenient to work with them in a higher position. As you saw, when baking this way, the tops still come out beautifully colored and just right, while the bottoms get a little golden. So if you put them on the bottom rack, unfortunately, everything will burn. Alright, now we just wait for the chocolate cookies to be ready, and then we'll let them cool as well. So, guys, there's just 1 minute left for the chocolate ones. They're almost done baking. Look, you'll need to let them cool a bit longer without moving them, because chocolate dough has this peculiarity. It's denser and sturdier when raw, but once it's baked and still hot, it's much more delicate and fragile. While they were baking, here's another little life hack or experiment for you. If you have a lot of leftover pieces from different batches and you don't want to mix them in anywhere, or if you just have a few, you can make this marbled thing. It's also really tasty, and it looks quite elegant when you use it for decoration. So, you just mix the leftover pieces together, like I showed you, using different scraps of light and dark dough. Again, don't knead it with your hands, just gently fold it, roll it out, and then cut out shapes like this. You end up with something like this. They're actually really interesting. Each one has a different pattern. For example, you can see here it's chocolate on the back, and here it's light colored. The flavor and combination are also really interesting. There you go. Calling, it's already ready. Let's take it out. Amatem. All right. Everything's perfect. Okay. See, it's really, really soft. So, we let it cool down well. After that, we transfer it the same way onto a wire rack so it can cool completely, keep its shape, and stay in good condition. About 15 minutes have passed, so now you can gently remove them and set them aside to cool completely. Now look, about the bow I mentioned earlier. Flip it over, and here's the front side. So now this is its front side, and it will look like this. In fact, it's smoother and more attractive. So here, you can do it however your inner aesthete desires. Be especially careful with the little tulip. It's a delicate one. And now, as I mentioned, the cookies need to cool down completely. If you plan to work with fondant on them today, you need to let them cool for at least 2 to 3 hours until they're completely cooled, and only then start decorating. Or, if you're following your schedule and decorating the next day, just let them cool completely, then lay them out on a flat surface and cover them with a bag, some plastic wrap, or even just a towel, just something to keep dust or anything else from getting on them. This way, they can easily sit at room temperature until the next day, until it's time to decorate.